The history of humanity is also the history of fighting epidemic diseases. Among these relentless enemies, the plague holds a special place. The Black Death caused the death of millions of people. It opened deep wounds in societies, leading to fear and despair. Plague has been a catalyst for historical and social transformations. It has been known since ancient times. It showed its most devastating effects in the Middle Ages. The Black Death wiped out 1/3 of Europe's population. It profoundly affected Europe's social, economic and cultural structure. It is considered one of the factors that brought about the end of the Middle Ages. It has threatened humanity with recurring epidemics throughout history. In the 19th century, it led to the deaths of millions of people in China and India. Today, it is under control thanks to antibiotics. However, it is still a disease that can be seen in some regions. The plague has caused epidemics many times throughout history. The best known is the Black Death that ravaged Europe in the 14th century. The epidemic, which started in Crimea, spread to Europe through trade routes. It killed 1/3 of Europe's population, approximately 25 million people. The Black Death profoundly affected Europe. It led to labor shortages, economic crisis, and social collapse. People desperately tried to protect themselves from the disease but could not prevent the epidemic. The Black Death is one of the factors that accelerated Europe's exit from the Middle Ages. Plague epidemics continued after the 14th century. The Great Plague in London in the 17th century killed 1/5 of the city's population. In the 19th century, epidemics in China and India led to the deaths of millions of people. The plague was brought under control in the 20th century with the discovery of antibiotics. However, it is still a disease that can be seen in some regions. Plague is a disease transmitted by a bacterium called Yersinia pestis. The disease is usually transmitted from rodents to humans by infected fleas. Plague can also be transmitted from person to person. The symptoms of the disease can vary depending on the type of plague. Bubonic plague is the most common type of plague. Symptoms include high fever, chills, headache, weakness, and swollen lymph nodes, also known as buboes. Septicemic plague is the plague that spreads to the bloodstream. Symptoms include fever, chills, shock, and organ failure. Pneumonic plague is the type of plague that affects the lungs. Symptoms include cough, chest pain, and shortness of breath. Plague can be fatal if not diagnosed and treated early. Antibiotics are used to treat the disease. To prevent plague, it is important to avoid contact with infected fleas, control rodents, and follow personal hygiene rules. Section 4. Against the relentless enemy. Methods of struggle. Throughout history, humanity has tried various methods to combat the plague. In the Middle Ages, since the cause of the plague was unknown, superstitious methods were used to protect against the disease. For example, people believed that the plague spread through bad smells and therefore carried fragrant herbs. The turning point in the fight against plague occurred in the 19th century with the discovery that the cause of the disease was the Yersinia pestis bacterium. This discovery led to significant developments in the diagnosis and treatment of the disease. The discovery of antibiotics revolutionized plague treatment. Today, plague is a disease that can be controlled when diagnosed and treated early. To prevent plague, it is important to avoid contact with infected fleas, control rodents, and follow personal hygiene rules. In addition, vaccination is recommended for people traveling to regions where plague is seen. Section 5. The legacy of plague, social and cultural effects. The plague has left deep marks on humanity throughout history. Epidemics have led to the deaths of millions of people, disrupted societies, and influenced cultures. The Black Death, which occurred in the Middle Ages, profoundly shook the social, economic, and cultural structure of Europe. Plague epidemics have led people to become more aware of hygiene and health. Quarantine practices became widespread during epidemics, and hospitals and health institutions were established. The plague has also found its place in art, literature, and music. The plague constitutes a dark page in human history. However, it also shows humanity's fighting spirit and resilience. Plague epidemics have also led to medical and scientific advancements. Although plague is a controllable disease today, what happened in the past reminds us that humanity must always be alert to epidemic diseases.